Hello people. This is Bio once again from Ultra Spirit Runners. And I'd like to thank all my subscribers. I'd like to thank all those who've been showing a lot of support, watching my videos, who've been giving a lot of feedback. I'm so grateful. This is our normal weekly video. And guess what? Today we have another special guest. I've been trying to get her for quite a while. She's a very good friend. She's my #1 supporter in Ultra Spirit Runners, been giving us a lot of support, a lot of tips, a lot of advice. And I thought it would be good to bring her here because she's an expert in a particular field that is becoming more and more important today. And it definitely relates to your health and fitness. And she's none other than Dr. Morenio, who is a mental health commissioner in California. She's a family psychologist and a professor of psychology. She's also the CEO of Morenio Network and the president of JAR Education Institute. She lives in California with her family. And one thing that is unique about her is that she's a strategic leader who clearly articulates the remarkable transformation of human experiences through the application of mental health education and leadership concepts. Thank you so much for coming on our channel. This has been a long time coming. So I'm really excited to have you in our midst today. Thank you for honoring this invitation and for being in our midst. And welcome.
Well, thank you, Spirit Runner. Thank you so much for inviting me. You know, I am a follower. Like you said, I love following everything you do. You're doing such an awesome job. And you know, you're like a coach. You're like a coach for everyone. So well done. Good job.
I try my best. So without wasting much time, we've got quite a lot to cover. And what we're really going to be covering today is how mental health impacts, how health and fitness can impact your mental health. So that's what we're going to be talking about. And we're going to be covering different areas of it. So in this first session, we will be dealing with two very important questions, and I'm really going to allow Dr. Morenio, or should I say Professor Morenio, to go into the depths, of the wealth of experience he has to enlighten us. I, in particular, I'm so interested in learning more about mental health because it's not an area that I know a lot about. So I'm really excited to hear what she's got to say. So without wasting much time, I'm going to go into the first question, which is a very good place to start, and it is, what exactly would you define mental health as, and why would you say it's important?
That's a good question, and thank you for inviting me to actually talk about this, because I think that mental health is a family's health, is a community's health, and it's a nation's wealth. You know, so because when we're all mentally well, then we can contribute in relationships, in business, in all areas of our lives. So what is mental health? Mental health is the foundation of all emotional alliances, learning, resiliences. Is how we do life. So think in terms of when you have your physical health, you're able to do well in life. Well, mental health is that you're emotionally healthy. It's that you're psychologically healthy. It's that you're socially impactful, you have social well-being, and also spiritually aligned. And so when you have those four components work, then you are in your optimum health, because mental health is also part of physical health. So and it's a good thing that we're talking about it more now. When you go through life, the people experience all kinds of problems. However, most people don't understand that your mental health is just as important as other areas of your life. And so some cultures don't even focus on it. Some cultures don't even have a term for it. But we found out that mental health is the key to relationships. It's key to your personal and emotional well-being and your contribution to society. So that is why we emphasize mental health.
Wow. There's a lot in there. I never realized that it actually cuts across to all those different areas that you mentioned. I just used to think about mental health as, your mind, just whether you have psychiatric issues or you're okay up there, as they say, I think,
and that's what most people think when you talk about mental health, they think of mental illness. When people think of mental health, they think of mental illness, and they think there's a spectrum. There's a spectrum of this. There's what we call mental distress, and most people will go through that. When you have a mental distress, it just means that there's an inner signal of anxiety or stress within you that's saying that something in your environment is demanding a lot more from you than you're used to. So you're in a challenging situation. Maybe you're going to take a test, you're going to go for an interview, something like that is happening, something new is introduced into your life. So you get a stress signal of sorts, that's which could, lead to a mental distress, which is you're worrying too much. Maybe you're unhappy, you're not as engaged as you should be, or not as energized as you should be. Maybe you're annoyed, or all kinds of things. Maybe you can't really sleep for that night. It doesn't mean that you have a mental illness. It just means that there is something that needs to be fixed around this time. So maybe I just need to study more for this test. Maybe I just need to prep more for this interview. You do that. So those signals have come to tell you something, that there's something new in your life that you need to solve. There's a challenge that you need to solve. Every one of us will deal with those things. Once you solve that problem, then you have developed a new skill set, so that when that happens the next time, you're going to go for another interview or another test, you can now, okay, I did this last time, so this time I'm going to do the same thing. So I can prep. So your brain is not going to go into a mental distress at that time, because it knows that there is resources for it. Okay, so that's what we call resilience building. So that happens. So mental distress is part, it's on the lower end of the continuum. And then you have mental health problems. Mental health problems can develop when something major happens. You're faced with a more significant stressor than usual. So those things could be a sickness, a death, a loss of any kind. Those kind of things happen, and you don't have the resources to deal with whatever it's, because you've never dealt with it before. And if you're not if your capacity to solve that problem is pretty, how do I say it? It's steep. You don't have the wherewithal, then you could actually develop a mental illness. People can actually go into depression and anxiety, and all kinds of things can happen because I don't have the capability to solve this problem that's been presented to me. And so that's meant that you can develop some mental illnesses, and depression, it could be a mood disorder, it could be all kinds of disorders. And then it goes on, and then it goes to the very end where we have, like schizophrenia, bipolar, and all of it. But most people are really, at either the beginning of the spectrum or in the middle somewhere. So when people hear mental health, they really think of mental illness. They're thinking of psychosis. But trust me, every single person has to have a good mental health in order to function. We're all emotional beings.
Yeah, I think, wow, that's quite a lot there. That, in fact, just really ties into the next question I was going to ask you, which I think is just a question of enlightening us more. So you talk about mental health, and we know that it shows itself in so many different ways. And I know you've mentioned a few of them as you were trying to explain, my last question. So could you just maybe just very briefly highlight the different ways? So we're not going to talk about mental illness, but the different ways that mental health can, or mental wellness, or would show itself in our daily life. Like, for example, you talked about, I'm not sure if the way I'm phrasing this makes sense. I know you talked about depression, talked about anxiety, and a few other things. So I'm just wondering if you could just, shed a bit more light, on all the different um, aspects of it, or how we know, if we're having issues, the warning
I get
signs.
it.
Yeah.
I think I understand the question. Yeah, you're thinking of, okay, there's some warning signs. How about warning
Yes.
signs?
Yes.
Let's
Warning signs. Yes.
yeah, some warning signs. Okay, so you
Yes.
find yourself eating too much, or eating, or not eating. You find yourself sleeping too much or sleeping too little. When you pull away from your usual activities, so maybe you're someone who used to be engaged in life, and all of a sudden nothing really interests you anymore. If you're low energy or no energy at all, when you're feeling numb, it just feels as if nothing matters. I mean, it's going to work or engaging in things just feels like a chore. If you're feeling helpless in any way, any kind of hopelessness, or sometimes these symptoms will manifest physiologically. You start having all kinds of pains, like it could be aches and pains all over your body that you can't explain. So some people, when I know we're going to talk about trauma next time, but when I've actually experienced a significant trauma, sometimes, or they would pick up an addiction so that they don't have to think about the pain, to suppress the pain. So they'll pick up an addiction. So you would have co-occurring disorders happening. So there'll be either drinking, substance use, it could be porn, it could be whatever it is that would just kind of keep them from thinking about the pain that they've gone through. And so we have feelings of feeling confused. If there's like just confusion, it's like I can't seem to comprehend much. Another one way is when you're on alert. You know, when you're constantly hyperactive. You're very tense, and your volume is raised. You're always yelling. You're always yelling at somebody. You're fighting. If you have somebody who you might say something very little, but they just respond very aggressively at you. That's somebody that's going through some kind of trauma response. Experiencing mood swings is part of it, and especially in relationships. When somebody's, you can't really tell if they're going to be nice to you today, or if they're going to be, you don't know. That's someone that needs to consider their mental health. Having persistent thoughts and that you can't get out of your head, and memories that you can't get out of your head, or what we call automatic negative thoughts, and it just keeps coming. This automatic negative thoughts. And if it's some of things, like if you are starting to hear voices or believe things that's not real, that's pretty serious. We have to really deal with that. Or when people are in the throes of depression, sometimes they also think of harming themselves. Okay, wow. Suicidal ideation. Yes, people don't share this thing, but it goes on in their head. So and sometimes it might not be something as explicit as go and kill yourself. It is, they'll just think there's no use for me. What's my value in this relationship? What's my value in this house? I should just end it. Those kind of things will come up. It doesn't mean they're going to do it, but it would rise up in them. And maybe another one we can just say inability to perform your daily tasks. Just the little things that you do, those kind of things. So I think those are warning signs, and that's just a bit.
I can imagine. Yeah. There's quite a lot there. I think it's good because some of the things that people see as normal, which I probably would have seen as normal, because they're just things that happen and people just don't think about them. And now I can see I actually linked to mental health, and these are warning signs, and that's why I guess sometimes you probably see someone who appear to be normal, and then the next thing you hear is they committed suicide, and you're just wondering, but hold on a minute,
Absolutely.
everything seemed fine, they seemed okay, everything seemed to be all right, they seemed to be getting on with their normal life, but there's certain warning signs that have been there all along, which no one
Absolutely.
else saw, which they obviously they were aware of because they were going through it, but no
Right.
one knew they were going through that stuff, and it just exploded. And the next thing you hear is, you know, they just decided, what's my worth? Like you rightfully said, why am I here? What's the point? And they just
Yeah.
decide the only option open to them is to end it, which is so sad because a lot of people have lost their lives that way. Which, if only they'd sought some help, or they knew what they were going through, they'd realize the
Absolutely.
fact that there are many other people going through the same thing, and
Hmm.
it's not the end of the world. There is always help if you cry for help.
One, one
Fantastic
of
thing. Mm,
one
mm,
of the, if I can just say this, um, uh, one of the mental health is very prevalent. Mental
mm.
illness is prevalent. You have to know that at least 1 in 4 people are suffering from something. And because of the pandemic that we have and all of the global issues that we have, it could even right now be more. We're seeing higher rates of depression, higher rates of addictions, higher rates of a lot of these issues. And so, well, mental health is very pervasive. We need to know that it's not just the person who kills themselves. There are a lot of people who are walking wounded who also need help. So, which is
Yes,
why I'm
yes.
so glad you're doing this. If because I believe in education and just speaking. So when people know that, okay, well, this is what's going on with me, maybe then I can seek help.
Fantastic, excellent. So you've heard from the professor's mouth, you might be going through stuff and you think you're all alone, and you don't know where to turn to. These signs that she's mentioned, they're warning signs, and you really just need to seek help. I mean, I know that's something we'll probably cover, like where do people go to
Mhm.
seek help when they're going through all this these experiences. What do they do? What's the way out of it? But before we touch on that, we'll quickly go to the next question, which is, um, how does exercise and fitness impact our mental health? Or does it impact our mental health, should I say?
Yes, absolutely. That is one of the reasons that we're having this conversation, right? It
Yep.
Mental health has a positive correlation, to lifestyle. Mental health and exercise is are highly correlated or related
Yep.
to life satisfaction. And so, people who exercise regularly tend to do so with just a enormous sense of well-being. They always feel better about themselves. There's more energy, and we'll go through the different areas. I just want to say, just as before we even start, we know that there is the medications that if you're going through a mental illness, if you have a mental illness or a mental disorder, the medications that could be prescribed for you. And I'm not against medicine, but there's a whole bunch of ways that you can actually triage the issues, the presenting issues, if you do them. And one of those things you can do is regular exercise. It has a profound impact on depression. It has a profound impact on anxiety. It has a profound impact on ADHD. It relieves, stress. It improves memory. It helps you sleep better. It boosts your overall mood. And so it is important that we know that there's things that we can do to actually prevent, going into psychopharmacologies and things like that. But there's things that we can do, and it's free if we just attend to them. So no matter what your age is, what your fitness level is, no matter what it is, you know that you can exercise. So for example, exercise and depression. There is a a hormone that is secreted in the brain called serotonin.
Yeah.
Serotonin is the energy, it's your energy hormone. It's the one that makes you feel like you want to do life. It's one that keeps you motivated. Now serotonin is once it's at the level that it should be, everything is fine. But if it's low, Low levels of serotonin is one of the reasons why people go into depressed state. So people go into a depressed state. So if you went to a psychiatrist here and you said you're suffering from major depression disorder, which is the different types of depression. So the one I'm talking about now is if you have a major depression, right? So if you have major depression and they're going to give you and they're going to prescribe a medication for you, they would prescribe SSRIs, which is what it does is a serotonin reuptake. So it picks up the serotonin levels in your brain, right? However, so which is good. However, if you research and studies have shown us that if you exercise, especially the running is the one with this particular study was focused on running. If you ran for 15, yes, it was done at Harvard University. And if you ran for 15 minutes a day, or you walked for an hour, okay, it actually reduced the risk of major depression by 26%.
Oh, wow, that's huge.
Yes, it is amazing. So exercise is a powerful depression fighter. It does that because it promotes all kinds of changes in your brain, including your neural growth. It allows you to secrete the serotonin that we just talked about.
Yeah.
It's feelings of well-being. So all of these things and all other endorphins. It's not just serotonin. There's dopamine that is being secreted. There's epinephrine. All kinds of good hormones are being secreted, right? And one of the ways you do this is make sure that you exercise. You have to get out and do it consistently. Am I still there?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. For some reason, I kind of lost it. And then there's exercise and anxiety. It's the same thing.
Yes.
Exercise is a natural and effective anti-anxiety treatment. It relieves tension. It reduces stress levels. It boosts your energy. So exercise enhances your well-being that way. When you are exercising, especially when there's anxiety involved, we just don't want you to go out and run or just walk. That's not, because anxiety is a little bit different from depression. So what we want you to do is when you are running or when you're walking or whatever other exercise you're doing, we want you to pay attention to the rhythm of your body. Okay, because the rhythm of your body, the way maybe the wind is blowing, the way the kind of rhythm you're producing as you're walking or as you're running. Because what it does, it first of all, it gets you into this mindfulness state, and it kind of relaxes you and calms you because you're not focusing on rhythms. You're focusing on rhythms, and that literally helps you calm down, which is why breathing is so powerful. It's very rhythmic breathing when you do them, consistently. So that's that. And exercise and stress. Like I said, it helps you, it relaxes your muscle. And remember I said sometimes you find that there's aches and pains all over your body, and some people carry it in their neck and their shoulders. Most people, if I tell you to drop your shoulders, most people will do this because we're always tensed. So if you can drop your shoulders, it means that you're tensed, because your shoulders should be like dropped, and so when you carry that, so what exercise helps you relieve all of those, stressors that you have, especially when you stretch before and after. It's very important because I believe stretching is also part of exercise. Very important, right? So all of the physiological things that happen when you're stressed can also get relieved when you exercise. So it's an effective way to break the cycle of pain, and then also even the type of exercise you do matters. And because we'll talk about right now we're just talking about exercise in general, but when we talk next recording on trauma, we'll talk about the type of exercises that you should not do in that state. And so yeah, so those are some of the ways that you can relate exercise to mental health.
Fantastic. Excellent. Excellent. So you've talked about mental health. You've given us a very good definition. You've given us examples of how how we, like the warning signs to look out for. We've talked about the benefits of exercise and how exercise actually does make a difference to your mental health, which obviously goes to show how important exercise is and how maybe you could reverse some of these problems that begin to raise their heads and how you can deal with them. I think that would nicely tie us to the end, bring us to the end of this, the first session of this recording. In the next session, we're going to be dealing at length with trauma, and we're also going to be talking about where to seek help. What to do if you find that you have, you're struggling with your mental health and you're seeing all the warning signs before it becomes too late. But I just really want to thank you, because for me, you've actually enlightened me, because this is an area that I didn't quite have a lot of knowledge on. I just, knew mental health is, I know that it seems to be a buzzword. Everyone talks about mental health. And also, I've always looked at mental health from the point of view of mental illness, which now I know that's very wrong, because, illness is just like the extreme end of it. There are other things, to consider. So thank you so much for your time and for bringing the wealth of knowledge that you have to our viewers. And I hope you viewers, you've found this video very beneficial. If you've not subscribed yet, this is a very good reason for you to subscribe. And please, a lot of people need to be aware about mental health. You could be saving someone else's life. So please send this video to friends and family and encourage them to subscribe to the channel, because we cover a wide area of topics that have to do with health and fitness. The whole purpose of this is to ensure that you do what you're supposed to do, to look after your body, which is God's temple. And when you do your bit, God will always fulfill his bit by ensuring that by the stripes of Jesus Christ you're healed, and you would be able to live a long, healthy lifestyle and be of very good use to your family and also to the kingdom of God. So thank you so much for watching. Please look out for the second half of this video, which is part 2, which has got a lot of exciting aspects that Professor Morenio is going to be covering. Thank you so much, Professor Morenio, and we'll see you in the next video.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Right, so we can